In a remote scrapyard, 4 miles out of Saffron Walden, Johnny Dwyer bent over the perfectly cut-up lines of coke. He paused, almost in reverence, looking appreciatively at the white powder before eagerly pushing the £50 note into his nostril, hungrily sampling the new batch of cocaine he'd just shipped in. He felt the burn at the back of his nose, followed by the tingling sensation in his throat. This was the best part, the first rush which he'd spend the rest of the night trying to chase. "Can I move now, Johnny? I've got cramp in me bleeding foot." Johnny stared down at the brass in disgust. Whores. They were all the same. Moaning and doing his head in. Jesus, if he'd wanted that, he'd have stayed at home. He didn't know why he'd even bothered, and now he was regretting it. Big time. "If you know what's good for you, you'll shut the fuck up and keep still." He bent down again, snorting another line off the hooker's stomach, whilst trying, then quickly giving up on remembering her name. "I ain't going to lie here any longer. I've got to go to the bog. I'll bleed and piss myself otherwise." Whining and pulling a face, she began to wriggle, spilling the coke down the side of her scrawny, tattooed hip. Johnny gnawed down on his lip. That was it, the final straw. Not only did this silly cow think it was okay to waste some decent blow, but she was now beginning to spoil his high. Leaping towards her and pushing his hands down hard against her throat, Johnny's eyes bulged with rage. "And I ain't going to pay for some bleeding crackhead like you to have a piss in me bathroom, so if you wanna—" "Boss!" The door to the porter cabin was flung open. Johnny scowled. "Fuck me, what happened to knocking? Give a man a chance to put his cock away." Big Billy Baldwin, who stood no taller than 5 feet, grinned at Johnny. "Sorry, boss, but he's here. Ma told me to bring him straight to you. She said you'd know what to do. She also said, enjoy." Tucking his penis back in his trousers, Johnny wiped his nose and nodded. "Fine, bring him in. Oh, get her out of here." Happy to oblige, Billy stepped forward, grabbing hold and dragging the naked woman off the table. "That hurt! Get off me! Oi! Who do you think you're manhandling? And what about me bleeding money? I need me clothes! I've a mind to—" The cabin door shut, muting the rest of her words. Straightening himself up, Johnny rubbed his chin, feeling the coarse, dark stubble, a throwback to his Romany jeans. Sighing, he swept back his black hair as he leant forward on his chair, moodily spinning round the well-used cosh which sat in front of him on the desk. He hadn't had the best of days. He'd heard a few things through the Essex grapevine which hadn't made him very happy. In fact, they positively pissed him off. Ma had told him his wife, Bree, was acting suspiciously again. No doubt planning, thinking about leaving him as she so often did. But of course, that was just never going to happen. No one left him. Ever. And if the stupid mare dared, or thought she could just get up and go with the kids, then she really was braver than most men he knew. But he'd sought it. He always did when she decided to step out of line. Though it always surprised him that she still hadn't learnt the lesson by now. She was his, and she was going nowhere. Yet even with all he'd taught her, every few months she'd get a bee in her bonnet about how she was going to leave, and every few months Ma would tell him about it. And then, well, he just sorted it the best way he knew how. Rolling a spliff, Johnny thought about the other piece of information he'd heard today. The information which Ron the Runt, who was not only one of the biggest grasses between Essex and John O'Groats, but also one of the biggest liars, had delighted in telling him. "It's true, Johnny. I swear it is. I swear. I wouldn't lie to you. I was just told by one of me sources." Johnny had stared at him in disbelief, but even when Billy, who'd been branding one of the horses at the time, had held a red-hot glowing horseshoe inches from Ron's face, the runt had sworn that his information was true. That now Reginald Reynolds, the kingpin of Essex, was dead. Vaughan Sadler and Alfie Jennings, 2 legendary faces of Soho, had decided to come back home to Essex, to set up shop and take the crown. And if Ron was right, well, bollocks to that, there was simply no way he was about to let that happen. No bleeding way at all. On top of all that, he was now going to have to deal with Shane, one of his employees who thought it was okay to do a moonlight fucking flit and go and work somewhere else. So, before he could relax and get on with the rest of his night,